Hey, what's going on, guys? It's Mike, and today I want to take a couple minutes and share with you what I think is the most important asset that anyone who wants to be in business, anyone that wants to be an entrepreneur, absolutely must possess. That's right, there is a list of assets that you should probably have if you want to be successful in business. You should have cash. You should have access to capital if you need it. You should have a great mentor or two. You should have a wonderful network. All these things help you in being successful as a business owner. But there's one thing that I think is absolutely critical. I don't think that you can be successful without this asset, and that is a great attitude. Now, I know that's a bit of a cliche. We always hear about attitude, the can-do attitude, the power of positivity. But I'm talking about something that's a little bit more finessed, a little bit more nuanced than that. What I'm talking about is an attitude that looks at life as a challenge that can be and should be met. You're always going to have challenges. You're always going to have limitations. You're always going to have frustrations. You're going to have skills. And you're going to have flaws. This is just part of life. Everybody, and I mean everybody, has to deal with problems. Now, some of you watching this aren't going to be as smart as others. Others of you are not going to be as good looking as others. I mean, the list just goes on. I'm a great example. I mean, you might find that you don't have enough education. You might find that you don't have a network. You don't have access to capital. You might find that you're not even a great leader. I'm telling you, if you have the right attitude, you can overcome all these things and be successful. I meet a lot of people that tell me, Mike, I really want to have my own business. I wish I were my own boss. But often what I hear from these same people is, but I don't have enough money, but I don't have enough education. You know, my husband and I just had a child, and I can't take the risk because I've got the health care, but. There's all these reasons why someone can't do what's in their heart to do. Now look, I'm one for being prudent. I'm one for making good decisions. I'm not saying cast caution to the wind and jeopardize you and your family. But at the end of the day, I'm also one that is convinced that there's a solution for every problem. And that solution never comes if you don't have the right attitude. Because you never even get into the problem-solving mode if your attitude is, well, there's nothing I can do. I'll throw my hands up. And so I want to say today, I want to encourage you that if you want to be in business, maybe you want to get a better job, maybe you want to see your personal relationships be better, that half the battle is your attitude. Let me share a little story with you about my experience when the economic crisis hit and I was running my agency. So at the time, we were a great business. We did over $1 million a year in revenue. We worked for some great world-class brands like Bird's Eye Foods and Wegmans, Kodak, Fisher-Price Toys. I was proud of my team and the work we did, great people. And then all of a sudden the floor dropped out. And we went from being easily over $1 million a year to just a few $100,000 a year in revenue. I mean, the literal floor dropped out. It's as if somebody just flipped a switch and the whole carnival just shut down. And so I'm sitting there as an owner just thinking, like, what do I do? How do I keep this business going? And I got fearful. I got tight. I got stressed. My vision just went right down onto the problem. And my stomach started bothering me and just my teeth were grit. And I'm thinking, I'm in trouble. And every week that went by, I got deeper and deeper into debt because I had to make payroll and I wasn't sure, is this thing going to bounce back? And it was just hard to prognosticate. I didn't know, was this temporary? Was this permanent? It wasn't like somebody sent me a notice saying, just so you know, on September 2nd of 2008 or 9, we're shutting the economy down, so be advised. We're all kind of feeling around in the dark, and so here I am with all this debt, these employees that I love dearly, and this business that I felt was, went from being a blessing to a boat anchor around my neck. And I'm thinking, what do I do? And so my attitude got really dark. How could it not? I think we all went through some of this back during the crisis. And what I started focusing on was the situation. I'm worried about cash flow. How am I going to get money? Is this client going to, do business with us? And I got really tight. And what ended up happening was, like, every time the news was on, I was like looking and listening for any little scrap of hope. I wanted to hear how's consumer confidence, what's the stock market doing? And it was just bad news after bad news after bad news. And I would just get tighter and tighter and tighter and more negative. And then one day I was home and I stepped back for a minute in my mind and I just said, well, what's the worst that could happen? Let's say the worst happens. I said, well, the worst that could happen is I go bankrupt. And I thought, okay, well, that means I'd shut the business down. I'd be ashamed publicly. I'd feel like a failure. I'd maybe lose my house, and I would have terrible credit for the rest of my life. And I thought to myself, but what would also happen? Well, my wife still loves me. She'd stay with me. We have 3 beautiful kids who that won't change. And I'm guessing my mom would take us in and we could live in her basement. And I thought, you know what? I could survive that. If I still had the love and support of my wife, and I was able to be with my children, and I could just have a roof over our heads until I figured out life, I thought, I could do that. I could handle that. And I was able to just take a deep breath. And by doing that, I was able to also step back and realize that I've had the wrong attitude. I was negative and focused on the worst. And I wasn't thinking about how to solve the problem. I was just fearful and upset. Once I realized that I could weather the worst, then I got to solving the problem. I just changed my mind and I said, look, this thing is like a big ball of yarn that's all knotted up. And you can't look at the ball of yarn and just kind of discern how to disentangle it. You've got to just start picking at a thread. You have to start acting. And so I went into the office the next day, sat my team down, shared with them everything that was going on, shared with them the financial situation. And as a team, we got down to business and we figured it out. And I'm telling you, that attitude change, that mindset kind of paradigm change from being fearful and negative and just focused on the worst that could happen to saying, look, this is a bad situation, but we can beat this thing. We can beat it. And then just picking away. Well, within about 2 years, I was looking at a business that had wiped out most of its debt. I had cash in the bank. I had cash flow. We had clients. We were getting the work through. We were getting billings happening. I mean, the company was healthy. We built it back up to where it was before in a short period of time. And I was able to take a 6-week vacation with my family to South Africa where I just unplugged. 6 weeks. And the business just hummed away. My team worked extra hard to make sure that I got a break. But what I'm trying to say is that would not have happened if it wasn't for an attitude change. That was the key. That was the linchpin that swiveled and shifted and unlocked this whole situation. And I think it's the same for you and I on a day-to-day basis. If you want to be in business, but there's something standing in your way, it's really about shifting your attitude, because once you do that, then you start seeing things differently. And let's not forget, in a lot of negative situations, there's usually a silver lining. Let's say you got fired from a job recently. Let's say it was unjust. Let's say you're hurt. You weren't treated fairly. You were one of the harder workers, and yet they let you go because some person with seniority that does nothing got to avoid the scrutiny, and they got to keep their job. Well, you can sit and be upset and bitter about that, and that's going to follow you for your life. Or you can say, you know what, this is a blessing in disguise. Even though I love my job, if that's the kind of company I was working for, I'm glad to be out of there. And this means that I can reinvent myself, I can find a better company, I can take this thing and turn it into gold. That's not fiction, that's reality. People do this every day. So I want to encourage you today, if there's something that you want, if you want to get into business, if you want to see your relationships change, if you want to change your financial situation, whatever these things are, the first step and the most important step is to change your attitude. Start feeding yourself positive things. Look for the good. Look at where you're blessed. Don't focus on your failures. Don't focus on your weaknesses. We all have them. Everyone. Focus on what's good in your life and start thinking about your problems in a way that allows you to start picking at that thread. I promise you, you will figure it out. If there's a will, there's a way. There's nothing more powerful than a will, the will of a human being focused on solving a problem. We wouldn't be living in this modern society. I wouldn't be talking to you through some digital platform all over the world if it wasn't for the individual and collective wills of people all over the world applied to problems. So I want to encourage you, you can do it. If you set your mind and your heart to it, you can do it. It just starts with your attitude. Guys, thanks so much for taking a few minutes and listening to me. Do me a favor, if you haven't already, please subscribe. I talk about life and success and entrepreneurship and fulfillment and abundance. And I throw in some marketing and branding from time to time as well. I'd love to have you along for the conversation, so hit that subscribe button. Also, if you like this, do me a favor and give me a thumbs up. And if you've had an experience with attitude, how your attitude's affected you negatively, positively, if there's something in here that I talked about that you resonate with, leave me a comment below. I love the comments. They're just so encouraging to me, and it's just fun to engage. So if you want to reach out, leave a comment below. I will respond. I try to respond to all the comments, all the videos, and they mean a lot to me, and it's just great to make this more of a community versus a one-way where I'm just saying something. It's great to get feedback from you guys, and we can have a conversation. So take a minute, leave a comment. Again, thanks so much for your time, guys. I love you all, and I will catch you in the next video.